Good day, fellow set collectors. My name is Brad of Chai Sox Cardboard, and this is take 2 of episode 5 of the Season and Set Project, 1965 Topps. If you watched my episode on getting the Willie Mays for this set, you'll know that I had a first attempt and I was not recording any sound for about 35 minutes worth of content. So the prep work was done. Now I need to re-record the episode. So we'll be covering cards 44 through 55 today, and that starts with Wade Blasingame. Now, despite sharing a name, kind of an unusual name, with Don Blasingame of earlier in the set, Wade is not related to Don. And despite appearing in 30 games over the 2 seasons before 1965, this is Wade's rookie card. Over the course of 10 different seasons, mostly with the Milwaukee and Atlanta Braves, as well as the Houston Astros, as both a starter and reliever, Wade Blasingame went 46-51 with a 4.52 ERA and a 77 ERA+, surpassing a league average 100 in the latter statistic only once in 1970 with 113. He finished his career with a negative 1.6 WAR, although even that is somewhat overstated because he managed to accumulate 1.7 WAR as a batter. Thus, as a pitcher, Blasingame's career WAR was negative 3.3. 1965, though, was one of Blasingame's best seasons. By WAR, and accounting for both pitching and batting, it was his best, coming in at 1.6, 1.1 for pitching and 0.5 for batting. He started more games in 1965 than any other season at 36, and went 16-10 with a 3.77 ERA. He threw 1 shutout in an impressive 10 complete games. Tony Cloninger and probably Ken Johnson had better seasons for the Braves, but Blasingame was a dependable, successful starter for a competitive team. Next up, card number 45, Roy McMillan. According to Richard Myler of the Society for American Baseball Research, Roy McMillan's baseball career essentially began the day he started playing professionally. A 4-sport athlete in high school in Bonham, Texas, McMillan's school didn't field a baseball team, but in 1947 he attended a Cincinnati Reds tryout without an invitation and impressed with his fielding ability. The Reds signed him the same year, and he spent the next 4 years learning the game in their minor league system. He would always excel at fielding. In 1951, McMillan broke camp with the Reds and played semi-regularly as a starter, pinch hitter, and pinch runner. On September 18, 1951, McMillan started at shortstop and then did not take a seat until August 7, 1955, for a streak of 581 consecutive starts. His 584 consecutive games, a streak which started 2 days earlier, during a doubleheader in which he pinch hit one of the games and included August 7th, in which he also pinch hit, that would be August 7, 1955, ranks him 21st all-time and 3rd among Reds players behind Frank McCormick at 652 and Pete Rose at 678 consecutive games. 1965 was McMillan's last full season as a starter, last season as a full-time starter, He started 153 games at shortstop, batting .242 with only 22 extra base hits, 19 of them doubles, in 574 plate appearances. In his career, which included 12 more seasons with the Reds, Milwaukee Braves, and New York Mets, McMillan won 3 Gold Gloves, made the All-Star team twice, and earned MVP votes 5 times, all while posting a career OPS plus of only 72. Next up, card number 46, Bob Lee. Bob Lee was a high-leverage reliever before the game really fully embraced and recognized a category of pitchers as such. He spent 8 years in the Pittsburgh Pirates minor league organization, where he was used both as a starter and a reliever. Lee pitched in 64 games in 1964, only 5 of them starts, posting a 1.51 ERA and an incredible 219 ERA+. He posted similar numbers in 1965 and 1966, at which point he was traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers. His Angels career ended with a 1.99 ERA in 370 innings, spanning 194 games, 58 saves, and an ERA plus of 167. But, as with many high-leverage relievers, his success was brief. Used much more sparingly and less effectively the next 2 seasons, He was out of baseball following the 1968 season, in which he walked more batters than he struck out, posted a whip of 1.701 and an ERA of 5.15, to go along with a career worst, not surprisingly, ERA plus of 62. After his electric 1964 rookie season, Lee made the All-Star team in 1965. He did not start a game, but pitched almost 40 more innings than the Angels' next most used reliever and 7 more innings than Rudy May, who started 19 games. Lee's ERA plus of 175 was by far the highest of any Angels pitcher on the year. When he was stretched out, Lee was especially effective in 1965. He gave up only 1 earned run in 6 games where he pitched more than 3 innings, for an ERA of .37 during those 6 games. Next up, Tommy Harper, card number 47. Card number 47, Tommy Harper. Tommy Harper was signed by the Cincinnati Reds as an amateur free agent before the 1960 season. Between 1963 and 1964, he started a slim majority of games for the Reds, but by 1965 started almost every day in left field. Harper was a table setter for the 89 and 73 Reds in 1965. In 157 games, he batted first in the lineup 115 times and second every other time. He hit 4 homers to lead off games, 18 total on the season, and his 126 runs scored led the league. Harper struck out 127 times, a career high, but he paired that with 78 walks and a .340 OBP. He also stole 35 bases and was caught only 6 times. On his career, Harper stole 408 bases and was caught 116 times and led the American League in steals in 1969 with 73 and in 1973 with 54. Harper played 6 seasons for the Reds, then 9 more seasons with 7 different American League teams, where his power numbers increased and he earned MVP votes 4 times. Harper retired after the 1976 season with a career WAR of 25.8. And now we'll take a little pause, because I don't think we've shown enough, and by that I mean none. We've shown no bloopers on this channel so far. I'm going to show a blooper of Tommy Harper in left field with Ron Santo at the plate. I believe this was 1974. Ron Santo's only season with the Chicago White Sox and his last season in the major leagues. So Hall of Famer Ron Santo at the plate hits a ball to left field. We'll see what happens with Tommy Harper, who was not quite at the end of his career, but in the last few years of his career. So see what these 2 aging ball players see what comes to pass with these 2 aging ball players on June 9th, 1974. Feel a little bad even showing that footage, because Tommy Harper seems like he was a good player that I didn't know anything about, so I certainly don't want to denigrate him here by showing just that clip, because he had a great career. But bloopers are bloopers. You got to enjoy them every once in a while. All right, next up is card number 56, Claude Raymond, or Claude Raymond. He had the unique distinction of being involved in 2 less traditional drafts. He was signed as an amateur free agent by the Milwaukee Braves before the 1955 season, and he was selected by the Chicago White Sox in the Rule 5 draft in December 1958. He did make the White Sox club, out of spring training in 1959, but only pitched in 3 games, giving up 4 earned runs in 4 innings. When he was cut in May, Raymond was returned to the Braves per the requirements of the Rule 5 selection. He pitched in the minors in 1960, was called up for a few weeks in the summer of 1961, and then stuck in the big leagues for good once he was called up a 3rd time in June 1962. Raymond pitched entirely in relief for the Braves, but struggled in 1963, his first full season, posting a WAR of -1.7. The Houston Colt 45s and New York Mets had joined the major leagues as expansion teams before the 1962 season, and proceeded to go a combined .221 and .423 over their first 2 seasons. As a result, the National League held a very small supplemental expansion draft following the 1963 season to help make the new clubs more competitive. The Braves made Raymond available, and the Colt 45s took Raymond with their only selection, which turned out to be a good choice. In 4 seasons with the Colt 45s turned Astros, Raymond threw 299 innings, posting a 2.98 ERA and a 1.14 ERA+. He made the All-Star team once in 1966. However, 1965 was pretty clearly Raymond's strongest season. Although still primarily a relief pitcher, it was the only season he started, 7 games, and the closest he came to pitching 100 innings at 96.1. He walked only 16 batters, which contributed to a career-low WHIP of 1.069. He threw 2 complete games, beating the St. Louis Cardinals 10-1 on June 6th and the Los Angeles Dodgers 3-1 on July 4th. So actually did pretty well against some decent teams that year. All right, that takes us to card number 49. Curt Blefary and John Miller. Although he's pitched sparingly in 1962, 1963, and 1967, John Miller's major league contributions primarily came in 32 starts between 1965 and 1966. He went 10-12 with a 3.99 ERA spanning 194 innings and accumulating a negative .7 WAR. Blefary is the bigger name on this card. He signed with the New York Yankees prior to the 1962 season. He was a promising prospect, but the Yankees let him go for nothing when the Baltimore Orioles claimed him off waivers in April 1963. This was a blunder that, according to John Henschel of the Society for American Baseball Research, had a number of possible explanations, none of them grounded in sound reason. I'll put that right up by John Henschel in the show notes because it's a good read. Blefary made his major league debut in 1965. He started 131 games in the Orioles outfield and led the team with 22 home runs and a .381 OBP. He was second on the team to Brooks Robinson in runs scored with 72 and third in RBIs with 70. In an award season with a few other less than notable household names like Zoilo Versailles for the American League MVP and Jim Lefevre for the National League Rookie of the Year, Blefary's 1965 performance won him the American League Rookie of the Year with 12 votes to Marcelino Lopez's 8. Blefary had similarly productive seasons in 1966 and 1967, but then deteriorated, his playing time diminishing starting in 1970, and he was out of baseball after the 1972 season. Which takes us to first Hall of Famer in the set for about the last 30 cards. I think the last Hall of Famer was number 20, Jim Bunning. Here we have number 50, Juan Marichal. This card is not in the greatest condition. It's a beater. It will be replaced at some point, but picked it up for like 50 cents or 75 cents or something like that in a number of other cards, so at least I've got a copy of it. Juan Marichal's angular delivery, which involved a leg kick above his head from the windup, distinguished him before he made the Hall of Fame, won 243 games, or even recorded his first of 2,303 strikeouts. Over his 16-year career from 1960 to 1975, almost entirely with the San Francisco Giants, he pitched 63.1 innings for the Boston Red Sox and Los Angeles Dodgers at the end of his career. Marichal was perhaps the game's best pitcher. Only Bob Gibson has a credible argument during the same time period. An absolute workhorse, Marichal led the league in innings pitched twice, both times clearing 320. Gibson never did. 4 times between 1963 and 1969, he posted whips below 1.00. Gibson had 1 such season in 1968. Modern baseball fans may have difficulty even comprehending that Marichal completed more games, 244, than he won, 243. Gibson bested him slightly in each category with 255 and 251, respectively. Marichal is certainly one of the best All-Star Game pitchers in history. He made 10 All-Star teams, including 8 straight seasons from 1962 to 1969. He appeared in 8 of the games, holding the American League scoreless in 7. All told, he pitched 18 innings, struck out 12, including Hall of Famers Tony Oliva and Carl Yastrzemski in 1967, and gave up only 2 runs, 1 earned, for a combined All-Star Game ERA of .50. The National League was 8-2 with Marichal on the team, though of course that's also a testament to the league's premier status in that era. In 1965, Marichal posted the second lowest ERA of his career at 2.13, led the league with 10 shutouts and an ERA plus of 169, and struck out 240 batters against only 46 walks. His 10.3 pitching WAR also led the league, though teammate Willie Mays led the league overall at 11.2. Neither Mays' MVP nor Sandy Koufax's unanimous Cy Young were particularly controversial in 1965. Both of them had incredible seasons. However, the lack of accolades were symptomatic of Marichal's career, in which he never won the Cy Young or finished higher than 5th in MVP voting, which he did in 1968. That he was not a first ballot Hall of Famer, having gotten in on his 3rd year of eligibility, is downright absurd. And with that, let's take a moment, pause, and check out some old footage of Juan Marichal, which particularly highlights that very unique leg kick.
Nicknamed the Dominican Dandy, Marichal became the preeminent pitcher of the 60s. In 1963, he threw a no-hitter and had his first 20-win season. 5 others would follow, as the Hall of Famer proved to be the winningest pitcher of the decade.
He was like an artist, like a Picasso. He was perfect. He was great control, great competitor. Marichal, so he's right there with Sandy Koufax and Bob Gibson, the best.
Marichal defied comparison when it came to his celebrated leg kick, a trademark he adopted in the minors and which proved to be surprisingly effective.
I feel good throwing overhands. I feel good kicking my leg, and I fall in love with the style. Then I read after I came to the major league and I faced Mickey Mantle that he said that it was very hard for him to follow the ball because the first thing he saw was the glove, then the leg, and the last thing he seen was the ball. So that encouraged me to keep doing that, and I think it paid off.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that. I, for one, before I started this project, kind of thought of Juan Marichal as like a 3rd-tier Hall of Fame pitcher, but the numbers don't bear that out. I mean, to say that he was the best pitcher of the 1960s is not hyperbole. I mean, it could be argued, but it's not clearly wrong. He's definitely in that upper echelon of Hall of Famers. All right, moving on to card number 51, Billy Bryan. Now, if it weren't for 1965, Bryan's career WAR would have been negative 1.8. But he put up career highs in 1965 in games, starts, 89, all at catcher, batting average at 252, and every traditional counting stat. His 761 OPS led the Athletics, so he was good by Kansas City Athletics standards, and his second half was especially good, and he batted 284 with an 811 OPS. Bryan was a Boston Red Sox killer in 1965, batting 383 with a 1.013 OPS, 2 home runs, and 10 RBIs against the Red Sox. That takes us to card number 52, Ed Roebuck. Ed Roebuck pitched in 460 Major League games between 1955 and 1966 as a reliever all but one time, a 1957 5-inning start. A Dodger in both Brooklyn and Los Angeles most of his career, Roebuck pitched in the 1956 and 1957 World Series. In 1956, he pitched only once, allowing no runs on 1 hit over 2 innings in the Dodgers' Game 6 loss, before their Game 7 win earned him his only championship ring. In the 1957 series, he pitched 4.1 innings over 3 games, allowing only a solo home run to Mickey Mantle, who he also struck out along with Hank Bauer, Andy Carey, and Billy Martin twice. Roebuck boasts a career 1.42 ERA over 6.1 World Series innings. By 1965, Roebuck was nearing the end of his playing days, but he was still pretty effective. He posted a 3.40 ERA over 44 appearances. One of his most interesting appearances was on May 23rd. The Cincinnati Reds had scored 3 runs in the bottom of the 9th to tie the game at 3 when Roebuck came in to get a ground out by Tony Perez and end the inning. The Phillies then scored an unearned run in the top of the 10th on a double by Jerry Arrigo, aided by an error on Reds catcher Johnny Edwards. Roebuck came in for the bottom of the inning, beaned Pete Rose and Vada Pinson, but allowed no hits or runs and earned the win. Card number 53, Dick McCullough. 20 players have played 14 or more seasons for the Detroit Tigers, and Dick McCullough is one of them. Notables include Ty Cobb and Al Kaline with 22 seasons each, Alan Trammell with 20 seasons, Charlie Gehringer 19 seasons, and Miguel Cabrera 16 seasons, and Harry Heilman 15 seasons. McCullough's big league career started in Detroit in 1960, and he played there through the 1973 season, then rounded out his career with the Boston Red Sox in 1974 and for a few regrettable weeks in the latter part of 1975. McCullough played all over the infield, starting 784 games at second base, 557 at shortstop, and exactly 100 at third base. As his infield versatility might suggest, McCullough did a lot of things well and nothing really great. He batted .247 for his career, and his 162-game averages were 18 home runs, 64 RBIs, and 82 runs scored. His 109 OPS plus for his career indicates he was above average, but not remarkably so. Even in his best years, 1966 through 1968, he did not significantly outperform the rest of his career, though he did lead the league in 1968 with 95 runs scored. In his 1968 World Series appearance, McCullough batted .222, including a two-run single off Steve Carlton in Game 2's win and a solo home run in Game 3's losing effort. McCullough earned his only MVP votes in 1968, coming in 7th place, but in 4th place on his own team. Denny McLain, with 31 wins and a 1.96 ERA, won it unanimously, and Bill Freehan and Willie Horton also placed ahead of McCullough. McCullough played a great first half in 1965, batting .298 with 11 home runs, 37 RBIs, and an .856 OPS. This earned him his first spot on the All-Star team, and he was also selected in 1966 and 1967. He did his best to help the American League to victory, hitting a 2-run home run off Jim Maloney in the 5th inning to cut the National League's lead to 5-3. However, the American League lost 6-5. McCullough's second half was dismal as he batted .152 with a .548 OPS through 34 games before being shelved for the remainder of the year with a hand injury. McCullough's 36.7 career WAR as a Tiger puts him 14th all-time among the franchise's position players. Card number 54, Joe Gibbon. A multi-sport standout athlete, Joe Gibbon was drafted by the Boston Celtics in 1957, but baseball was his passion and he signed with the Pittsburgh Pirates that year instead. After some minor league seasoning, Gibbon made the Pirates' 1960 opening day roster. His major league debut was the second game of an April 17th doubleheader, and Gibbon got his first victory in relief, pitching a scoreless 8th and 9th to set the table for a 6-run 9th inning by the Pirates, who won 6-5 that day. Gibbon's rookie season ended with a 4-2 record, 4-2 record, and a 4.03 ERA as he appeared in 27 games, 9 starts for the squad that would eventually win the World Series. Gibbon was still with the Pirates in 1965, but had one of the worst seasons of his career, going 4-9 with a 4.51 ERA in 31 appearances, 15 starts. 3 times in June and July, he gave up 6 earned runs in starts that lasted less than 5 innings. He was used primarily in relief the remainder of the season and was traded in December with Ozzie Virgil to the San Francisco Giants for Matty Alou. But in June 1969, the Giants traded Gibbon back to the Pirates for Ron Klein, and so it was that Gibbon was on both the 1960 World Series winning team and the 1970 division winning squad, which played in the National League Championship Series. The Pirates had not made the playoffs in between those 2 years. And now our last card of the episode, number 55, Tony Conigliaro. I don't have this card. This is the first card of the episode that I don't have. Now, I'm showing a graded version here because it's a close call. Not a Hall of Famer, but kind of a key card in the set. He's got the Topps rookie trophy there, All-Star rookie trophy. I think I'd like to pick this up graded if possible. So this is a pretty good looking example of a PSA 6. In my opinion, which I pulled off of eBay, so if anybody wants to beat me to it, it's out there for purchase if you're interested. Just need to search for it. All right, Tony Conigliaro. Before he turned 21 years old, He had 105 extra base hits in the major leagues, 56 of them home runs, driven in 134 runs, and had an OPS plus of approximately 135. Assuming gradual improvement with age, he was off to a great start towards a Hall of Fame career. In 1965 was his age 20 season, and he led the league in home runs with 32, a feat which surprisingly earned him only 33rd place MVP votes at the time. Conigliaro continued his dominance in 1966 and through about two-thirds of the 1967 season. In fact, the Red Sox much improved. He posted a 3.7 WAR through August 18th. That day, a Jack Hamilton pitch struck Conigliaro where the left ear flap was beginning to be used by some players and became required in 1983. Had one been on Conigliaro's helmet, he may have made the Hall of Fame. But one was not, and the beaning severely damaged his retina. He sat out the remainder of the 1967 season and the entirety of 1968. Incredibly, he made multiple comebacks, even hitting 36 home runs with 116 RBIs and a .266 average in 1970, but the retina damage was degenerative and he never played a full season again after 1970, his age 26 season. Conigliaro batted .264 for his career with a 119 OPS, and his 162 game averages were 31 home runs and 95 RBIs. If only he hadn't been beamed and had played 20 seasons alongside Carl Yastrzemski. And now, we'll cover 4 days in the 1965 season. With the Mets and nearing the end of his career on April 22, 1965, Roy McMillan started at shortstop, going 0 for 3. But he walked and scored the Mets' only run in a 2-1 loss to the Los Angeles Dodgers and Sandy Koufax, who pitched a complete game and struck out 9, including McMillan twice. Tommy Harper started on April 23, 1965, batting second and playing left field. He went 2 for 4 with 2 singles and scored a run in the Reds' 6-3 loss to the St. Louis Cardinals, who got a complete game from Bob Gibson. Elsewhere in the National League, the Houston Astros beat the Pittsburgh Pirates 4-3 in 12 innings on a walk-off single by Rusty Staub, and the New York Mets beat the San Francisco Giants 9-8 in 11 innings. And the Los Angeles Dodgers shut out the Philadelphia Phillies 4-0 on Johnny Podres' complete game shutout in his first start of the season. On April 24th, 1965, Ed Roebuck managed a single out, allowing 2 singles and a wild pitch, and gave up 4 runs, none earned. The Cincinnati Reds bested the St. Louis Cardinals 6-3 on 2 home runs by Frank Robinson. The Houston Astros and Turk Farrell shut out the Pittsburgh Pirates 5-0, and the New York Mets beat the San Francisco Giants 7-6 on a 3-run triple by Danny Napoleon in the top of the 9th. The Pirates played the Houston Astros on April 25th, 1965. The game went 11 innings and ended with Joe Morgan's walk-off single to cement a 5-4 Astros victory. The Philadelphia Phillies beat the Los Angeles Dodgers 6-4, with Dick Stewart accounting for 4 of the Phillies' runs with a 2-run double and a 2-run homer. To round out the National League scoreboard, the New York Mets and San Francisco Giants split a doubleheader. First, the Giants won 5-0 on a strikeout shutout. The Giants won 5-0 on a 9-strikeout shutout by Juan Marichal, and then Warren Spahn pitched a complete game of his own to win the second game for the Mets 4-3. Ron Swoboda provided most of the Mets' offense on a home run and 3 RBIs. Over in the American League on April 22, 1965, the Minnesota Twins beat the New York Yankees 8-2 with Jim Cott pitching 9 innings for the 3rd consecutive time to start the season. His first effort was not a complete game because it went into extra innings. Tony Oliva hit 2 home runs and had 4 RBIs. In the only other American League game of the day, the Baltimore Orioles put up 18 runs on 20 hits, beating the Washington Senators 18-4. Every starter, including pitcher Wally Bunker, scored a run, and every position player except Norm Seaburn had at least 1 RBI. Kurt Blefary went 2 for 6 with a home run and 3 RBIs. The next day, Blefary went 0 for 2 but scored after walking in the second inning, and the Orioles beat the Boston Red Sox 4-2 to get to 500 on the year. The Chicago White Sox beat the Washington Senators 5-3. The White Sox overcame Juan Pizarro's 3 walks to start the second inning. He promptly got the hook before 2 of them scored, resulting in the unusual line of giving up 2 runs on 0 hits in 1 inning pitched. The Twins maintained first place, now with a full game lead over the White Sox. On April 24, 1965, Billy Bryan started at catcher for the Athletics, batting 6th. He went hitless, but did score the team's only run after walking to lead off the 7th. The Athletics lost 4-1 to Cleveland Indians. the only team that played even or better at 9-9 all season. Elsewhere in the American League, the Red Sox beat the Baltimore Orioles 7-5 on the strength of Lee Thomas's 3-run 12th inning homer, which made Jackie Brandt's home run in the bottom of the 12th a harmless solo shot. The Detroit Tigers beat the Minnesota Twins 7-4 on a 3-run pinch-hit walk-off home run by Gates Brown, and the California Angels beat the New York Yankees 6-3 with Bobby Knopp accounting for 4 Angels runs. The Chicago White Sox beat the Washington Senators 6-2 with a 3-run homer from Floyd Robinson and a 3-inning save from Hoyt Wilhelm. The only American League games played on April 25, 1965 were a doubleheader sweep by the New York Yankees of the California Angels, both one-run games. The first was 3-2 with Whitey Ford getting the win and Pedro Ramos getting a one-hit 2.2-inning save. The second was a 1-0 3-hit shutout by Mel Stottlemyre, the lone run coming courtesy of a Mickey Mantle home run. The wins got the Yankees to 5 and 6th and in 6th place. At the end of the day, on April 25th, 1965, the Dodgers held a half-game lead over the Chicago Cubs for the National League pennant at 7-3. The Cubs were 6-3. Cincinnati Reds were 1 game back at 6-4, and the Houston Astros and Philadelphia Phillies were at 500 at 6-6 and 5-5 respectively. The Mets, Pirates, Giants, Braves, and Cardinals were all under 500. The Cardinals were bringing up the rear at 3-6, coming off their 1964 World Series victory. In the American League, the Minnesota Twins and Chicago White Sox were in a virtual tie for first place. The Twins were 6-2 and the Sox were 7-3, so the Twins held the edge in winning percentage. The Tigers were half a game back of both of them at 6-3. The Boston Red Sox were 1 game back at 5-3, and the Cleveland Indians were 4-3 and a game and a half back. The New York Yankees, Baltimore Orioles, California Angels, Washington Senators, and Kansas City Athletics were all under 500, with the Athletics bringing up the rear at 2-7. And with that, episode 5 is in the books, with sound this time. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, collect what you love, flip what you like.